Captain Jake Morrison stood at the window of the USS Defiance, watching the massive space station grow larger as his ship approached. Kepler's station was huge, bigger than any human structure he had ever seen. The metal surface gleamed under the light of 3 distant suns, and ships from across the galaxy moved around it like insects around a bright light. "First time seeing something like this?" asked Admiral Lisa Carter, walking up beside him. She was a tall woman with gray hair and sharp eyes that missed nothing. Himself, the station was impressive, but it was also a show of power. The aliens wanted humans to feel small when they arrived. It was working. Dr. Kevin Walsh joined them at the window. He was a thin man with thick glasses who had spent his whole life studying alien life forms. "The Corven sections are on the left," he said, pointing to areas of the station covered in sharp, angular metal. The Zeltani prefer the smoother surfaces on the right. The Vaxians control the middle sections where all the trade happens. 8. 3 alien species controlled the galaxy, and they had called humanity here for one reason. They wanted to divide up human space like a pie at a dinner party. The question was whether humans would have any say in how the slices were cut. "Captain, we're being hailed by station control," came a voice from the bridge. The main screen flickered to life, showing a creature that looked like a cross between a lizard and a bird. Its voice was harsh and mechanical. "Human vessel, you will dock at Bay 47. Your delegation has exactly 1 hour to prepare for. The council meeting, do not be late." The screen went dark before Jake could respond. Lisa shook her head. "Friendly bunch." Classic intimidation tactic. Jake ordered his crew to dock the ship as they walked through the station's corridors. He noticed how everything was designed to make humans feel small. The ceilings were twice as high as they needed to be. The hallways were wide enough for 10 people to walk side by side. Even the doors were massive. As if built for giants, guards from all 3 alien species lined the route to the council chamber. The Corvins looked like walking tanks, covered in thick armor and carrying weapons that hummed with energy. Zeltani were tall and thin, with skin that seemed to shimmer like oil on water. Their eyes glowed with an inner light that made Jake's skin crawl. The Vaxians were the smallest of the 3, but their tentacles moved constantly, as if they were always calculating something. The council chamber was a huge circular room with 3 raised platforms. On the first platform sat War Master, the soul of the Corven Empire. "Humans," he said, making the word sound like a curse. "You have been brought here to receive the terms of your surrender." "Surrender." Lisa stepped forward. "We haven't surrendered anything." High Processor Vinthari of the Zeltani Collective spoke next. Her voice was cold and emotionless, like a computer reading data. "Your species has been evaluated. You possess minimal technological advancement, limited military capacity, and no significant contributions to galactic civilization. Resistance is mathematically impossible." Tradelord Kexmore of the Vaxian Union waved his tentacles as he spoke. "Your worlds contain valuable resources. Your people can provide useful labor. This is a business transaction, not a negotiation." Jake felt anger rising in his chest, but he kept his voice calm. "What exactly are you proposing?" Dexel stood up, his armor clanking. 75% of your territory will be divided among our 3 species. The remaining 25% will serve as a reservation for your people under our direct supervision. Your population will be relocated to designated work areas," Vinthari added. "Efficiency calculations indicate that human labor can increase productivity in several sectors by 12%. Your military will be disbanded," Kexmore continued. "All weapons and warships will be surrendered. Your species will be placed under the protection of the Galactic Council." Kevin leaned close to Jake and whispered, "They're treating us like a primitive tribe." Jake looked at each of the alien leaders in turn. He had read their files during the journey to Kepler Station. Dexel had conquered 15 species in his career. Vinthari had overseen the forced relocation of millions of beings from dozens of worlds. Kexmore had built his fortune by buying and selling the resources of conquered planets while their original inhabitants worked as slaves. "These terms are unacceptable," Jake said. The 3 aliens looked at each other, then back at the humans. That's all laughed. A sound like grinding metal. You misunderstand your position, human? This is not a negotiation. These are the terms of your surrender. You will accept them, or your species will be eliminated. We're offering you a chance to survive, Vintheri said. Logical analysis indicates that cooperation will result in the preservation of your species. Resistance will result in extinction. Think of it as a business merger, Kexmore added. Your assets will be acquired, your people will be employed, and everyone profits. Very efficient. Lisa's hand moved toward her sidearm, but Jake caught her wrist. Not yet. Not here. We're outnumbered 1,000 to 1 on this station. We need time to consider your offer, Jake said. Offer, Thex? All roared. This is not an offer. This is a command. Nevertheless, Jake replied, humanity requires 24 hours to provide a response. The three aliens spoke to each other in their own languages. Jake caught a few words in Corven that roughly translated to weak and pathetic. The Zeltani exchange sounded like a computer program running calculations. The Vaxians made clicking sounds that Jake knew meant they were discussing profit margins. Finally, Vintheri spoke. 24 hours is acceptable. However, understand that delay will not change the outcome. Your species lacks the capability to resist our combined forces. We'll return tomorrow with our answer, Jake said. As the human delegation left the chamber, Jake heard Dexel speaking to his officers. The walk back to their ship felt longer than before. The alien guards watched them with expressions that ranged from amusement to contempt. Jake kept his face neutral, but inside he was already making plans. Once they were back aboard the USS Defiance, Lisa closed the door to the briefing room and turned to face Jake. Please tell me we're not actually considering their terms. Of course not, Jake replied. But I needed to buy us time. Kevin sat down heavily in his chair. They've done this before, probably dozens of times. Find a young species, make demands, crush any resistance, then divide up the spoils. They made one mistake, Jake said, walking to the communications console. They assumed we're as helpless as we appear. He entered his command codes and opened a secure channel to Earth. The message was brief and coded, but its meaning was clear to anyone who knew how to read it. Diplomatic solution? Impossible. Recommend immediate implementation of Protocol 7. The response came back within minutes. It was signed by President Helen Torres herself. Protocol 7 authorized. Good luck, Captain. Jake closed the channel and turned to his officers. Contact all human ships in the sector. Tell them to prepare for Operation Nemesis. What about the aliens? Lisa asked. Jake smiled for the first time since arriving at Kepler Station. They wanted to see what humanity is capable of. Tomorrow, they'll get their wish. Outside the ship, the lights of Kepler Station continued to twinkle in the darkness. The aliens were celebrating, convinced they had won another easy victory. Had no idea that humanity had been preparing for this moment since first contact was made 3 years ago. The storm was coming. Earth's children were ready to show the galaxy what happened when someone threatened their home. War Master Thexal stood in his command center aboard the Corven flagship Bloodclaw, watching the holographic display of human space. Red dots showed the locations of human colonies, while blue markers indicated where his third battle fleet would strike first. The humans had asked for time to consider surrender, which meant they were weak and frightened. The humans are cowards, he told his second-in-command, were Captain Zexstar. They beg for time because they know they cannot fight us. We'll give them a demonstration of Corven power. Zexstar nodded, his scarred face grinning with anticipation. The outer colonies have minimal defenses. We can conquer 3 systems before they even know we have moved. On the bridge of the Zeltani vessel Mind's Edge, High Processor Vinthari analyzed the tactical data flowing across her screens. Numbers and calculations filled her vision as she computed the most efficient way to occupy human space. The Zeltani did not enjoy war like the Corvins, but they understood its necessity. Human resistance probability is calculated at 4.7%, she reported to her subordinates. Their technology levels suggest they cannot mount effective opposition to our automated defense systems. Subprocessor Kylanth highlighted several Human trade routes on the display. Our platforms can be deployed within 6 hours. Human commercial traffic will be stopped, searched, and redirected to processing centers. Meanwhile, on the Vaxian command ship Prophet's Edge, Trade Lord Kexmore was already liquidating human assets throughout neutral space. His tentacles moved rapidly across multiple control surfaces as he transferred human investments, seized human property, and redirected human trade agreements to Vaxian partners. The humans have been surprisingly successful traders, he told his assistant commerce leader, Pextel. Their businesses will generate excellent revenue once we control them directly. Pextel clicked his approval. Should we be concerned about their request for time to consider surrender? Kexmore's tentacles waved dismissively. Time is money, and they have neither. Every hour they delay costs them resources they cannot afford to lose. None of the alien leaders suspected that their communications were being monitored. Deep in space, human listening posts recorded every message, every order, every casual conversation. The aliens had grown careless over centuries of easy victories on Earth. In a bunker buried beneath the Rocky Mountains, General Bobby Lane watched the alien fleet movements on his own tactical display. The Situation Room was filled with officers who had spent years preparing for this moment. They had studied every alien battle, analyzed every alien victory, and learned from every alien mistake. The Corvens are moving exactly as we predicted, Lane told his staff. Exal is a good general, but he follows the same patterns he's used for 50 years. The Zeltani are deploying their platforms along predictable routes. The Vaxians are focused on economics instead of tactics. Colonel Sandra Wright, Lane's intelligence chief, highlighted several areas on the display. Our deep space sensors show the alien fleets are operating independently. They're not coordinating their movements, which means they're vulnerable to being defeated separately. Lane smiled grimly. Divide and conquer. They think they're using it on us, but we're going to use it on them. Above Earth's moon, Commander Amy Bell supervised the final preparations at Luna Base. What appeared to be a simple research station was actually the command center for humanity's secret fleet. Hidden in the moon's shadow, dozens of warships waited for the signal to move. Status report, Bell ordered. Lieutenant Frank Morris checked his instruments. All ships report ready. The heavy cruisers are fully armed and fueled. The destroyer squadrons are positioned for rapid deployment. The carrier groups are launching their fighters now. Bell looked out at the stars where alien fleets were moving toward human space. The aliens think we're weak because we haven't fought a major war in 50 years. They don't understand that we've spent those 50 years preparing for this war. Catherine Price worked in a different part of Luna Base, analyzing alien communications and behavior patterns. Her xenopsychology team had discovered something important about their enemies. The aliens had become predictable because they had never faced serious resistance. Look at this, she told her assistant, Dr. Nancy Adams. The Corvens have conquered 15 species using almost identical tactics every time. The Zeltani have automated their conquest procedures. The Vaxians treat every conflict like a business transaction. Nancy studied the data. So they're not really warriors anymore. They're bureaucrats with weapons. Exactly, Catherine replied. They've forgotten how to fight an enemy that fights back. The first test came at the edge of human space, where a small Corven scouting force encountered what they thought was a simple cargo convoy. The 3 human ships looked defenseless, carrying supplies to a mining colony. War Captain Dexamil ordered his squadron to intercept and search the vessels. Human ships, prepare to be boarded, he broadcast. Resistance will result in your destruction. The human ships did not respond immediately. Then, without warning, they opened fire. The cargo containers fell away to reveal hidden weapon systems. The defenseless freighters were actually heavily armed warships in disguise. Dexmel's squadron was destroyed in less than 2 minutes. The survivor's last message was a desperate warning. The humans have weapons. They were waiting for us. Similar encounters happened throughout human space. Mining stations revealed hidden missile batteries. Research outposts activated shield generators and defensive platforms. Civilian ships transformed into military vessels. The aliens had been watching humanity for 3 years, but they had only seeing what humans wanted them to see. On Kepler station, the alien leaders received reports of these unexpected encounters. At first, they dismissed them as minor setbacks. Few hidden weapons were not enough to change the outcome of a war. High Processor Vinthari recalculated her projections. Human resistance probability has increased to 12.3%. This is still within acceptable parameters. War Master Thixal was more concerned. The humans are using deception. This is not honorable warfare. Trade Lord Kexmore clicked his tentacles nervously. Deception is bad for business. How can we trust them to honor agreements if they lie about their capabilities? The aliens' real shock came when they tried to attack the human colony of New Boston. The Corven fleet expected to find a few defensive platforms and maybe a small patrol squadron. Instead, they found a fortress. The colony was surrounded by weapon platforms, shield generators, and automated defense systems. The colonists themselves were armed and ready to fight. When the Corven ships approached, they were met with a wall of fire that destroyed half their fleet before they could retreat. Our captain, Gexstar, barely escaped with his life. His report to Gexal was brief and terrifying. The humans have been preparing for war. Every colony is a fortress. Every civilian is a soldier. We are not fighting explorers and traders. We are fighting warriors. The pattern repeated across human space. The Zeltani discovered that human computer systems were protected by security programs they had never seen before. The Vaxians found that human businesses had hidden assets and backup plans for every economic attack. Dr. Kevin Walsh, still aboard the USS Defiance at Kepler Station, intercepted alien communications about these battles. He smiled as he read the reports. They're starting to understand, he told Captain Morrison. We're not the primitive species they thought we were. Morrison nodded. The question is whether they're smart enough to back down or stupid enough to escalate. The answer came within hours. The three alien leaders met in emergency session and made a decision that would change the course of the war. Instead of reconsidering their demands, they decided to commit more forces to the attack. The humans have some hidden strengths, Thexal admitted, but they cannot match our combined fleets. We will crush them with overwhelming numbers, Vinthari agreed. Additional resources will be required, but the outcome remains mathematically certain. Human resistance will be eliminated. Kexmore was less confident, but he had invested too much in the conquest to back down now. We must succeed. The alternative is losing face throughout the galaxy. The aliens called for reinforcements from their home systems. Massive fleets would arrive in human space. The real war was about to begin. On Earth, General Lane received intelligence reports about the alien reinforcements. He called President Torres with an update. They're escalating instead of backing down. That means we move to Phase 2. Torres authorized the next stage of humanity's plan. Give them what they're asking for, General. Show them what a real war looks like. The aliens had made a crucial mistake. They thought humanity's hidden strength was a desperate last resort. They had no idea it was just the beginning. The massive alien fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Proxima Centauri system like a storm cloud blotting out the stars. 300 warships from the Corven Empire, Zeltani Collective, and Vaxian Union spread across space in perfect formation. War Master Thexal stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the tactical display with satisfaction. The humans will see our strength and surrender, he told his officers. No species has ever faced a combined fleet of this size and survived. High Processor Vinthari monitored the battle preparations from her command ship. Her calculations showed a 97.3% probability of victory. The human defenders had only 60 ships compared to their 300. Mathematics did not lie. Human resistance will be eliminated within 4.7 hours, she announced to her crew. Prepare for occupation duties. Trade Lord Kexmore was all ready, calculating the profits from conquest. The Proxima system contained valuable mining operations and industrial facilities. Once the humans were defeated, those assets would generate enormous wealth for the Vaxian Union. On the human side, Commander Danny Martinez stood in the command center of the defense station, orbiting Proxima Centauri. He was a young officer who had never commanded a major battle before, but he had trained his entire career for this moment. Round him, dozens of human officers monitored their screens with calm efficiency. "Enemy fleet detected," reported Lieutenant Tony Clark. 300 ships approaching in standard formation. Martinez nodded. The aliens were doing exactly what human intelligence had predicted. They believed in overwhelming force and rigid tactics. It was about to cost them dearly. "Signal all ships," Martinez ordered. "Execute wolf-pack formation." The human fleet scattered like leaves in the wind. Instead of meeting the aliens head-on, they split into small groups that moved in unpredictable patterns. Each group of 5 or 6 ships operated independently, striking at different targets before disappearing into the asteroid field that surrounded the system. War Master Thexol watched the human formation break apart with confusion. What are they doing? This is not proper battle tactics. His tactical officer, War Captain Yextel, studied the display. They appeared to be running away, War Master. "Then we pursue and destroy them," Thexol growled. "All ships advance and engage." The alien fleet moved forward in their perfect formation, expecting the humans to regroup and fight a traditional battle. Instead, they found themselves under attack from all directions. Human ships appeared from behind asteroids, fired their weapons, and vanished before the aliens could respond. Captain Susan Green led one of the human wolf packs in her destroyer, USS Ranger. She had 5 ships under her command, and they moved through the asteroid field like hunters stalking prey. When a group of Corven cruisers passed nearby, she gave the order to attack. "All ships, target their engines," she commanded. "Hit them hard and fast." The human destroyers opened fire with weapons the aliens had never seen before. Instead of the simple energy beams they expected, the humans used missiles that could change direction in flight, plasma cannons that could penetrate any shield, and electromagnetic pulse weapons that shut down alien systems. The Corven cruisers tried to return fire, but their weapons were designed for long-range battles between fleets in formation. They could not track the fast-moving human ships that appeared and disappeared like ghosts. "Their shields are down," reported Lieutenant Carl Brooks from the USS Arrow. Moving in for the kill, human ships swarmed the disabled cruisers, destroying them with precise shots to their reactor cores. Within minutes, 6 alien ships were gone, and the human wolf pack had vanished back into the asteroid field. High-dash processor. Vintheri watched her tactical display with growing alarm. The neat formations of her fleet were being torn apart by human attacks that made no logical sense. The humans were not fighting like a civilized species. They were fighting like wild animals. "Recalculating battle parameters," she announced. "Human tactics do not match any known patterns." Her subordinate subprocessor Milkith highlighted the casualties on his screen. "We have lost 47 ships. The humans have lost only 3. This outcome was not predicted." Vintheri's processors worked frantically to understand the human strategy. Her species had conquered dozens of worlds using logical, predictable tactics. They had never faced an enemy that seemed to make up their strategy as they went along. Admiral Paul Wright coordinated the human defense from his flagship USS Liberty. He watched the battle unfold with grim satisfaction. The aliens were learning what human military historians had known for centuries. The side that adapts fastest usually wins. "Signal Commander Martinez," he ordered. "Time for Phase 2. Martinez received the message and smiled. Phase 2 was about to show the aliens something they had never seen before. He opened a channel to all human ships in the system. "All civilian vessels, you are cleared for combat operations," he announced. Tradelord Kexmore watched in horror as human cargo ships, mining vessels, and even passenger liners suddenly revealed hidden weapons. The defenseless civilians the aliens had planned to capture were armed and ready to fight. "This is impossible," he clicked to his officers. "Civilians do not participate in warfare. It is not economically efficient." His tactical advisor, Commerce Leader Texmel, pointed at the display. "The human freighter that was carrying grain yesterday is now firing missiles at our cruisers." The aliens discovered that every human adult had basic military training. Farmers became soldiers, miners became gunners, and traders became pilots. The concept of total war was foreign to species that kept their military and civilian populations separate. Captain Rebecca Adams commanded the converted freighter, New Hope. Her crew consisted of colonists who had volunteered to defend their home. They had never fought in a real battle before, but they knew their ship and their weapons. "Target that vaccine cruiser," she ordered her gunner, a former construction worker named Pete Johnson. Johnson had spent his life building homes and factories, but he had trained on weapon systems every weekend for the past 2 years. His first shot disabled the alien ship's shields. His second shot destroyed its main engines. "Got him," Johnson reported with a grin. "Next target." The battle raged for hours, but the outcome became clear as the human tactics took their toll. The aliens lost ship after ship to attacks they could not predict or counter. Their perfect formations became scattered groups of damaged vessels. Trying to escape, Dr. Karen Stone broadcast from Earth to the alien fleets, her voice carrying across all communication channels. "Attention, alien forces.
You wanted to see what
humanity is capable of. You are currently fighting the descendants of a species that survived ice ages, plagues, and world wars. We have been preparing for this fight for our entire history." The broadcast included images from Earth's military history. The aliens saw footage of human soldiers fighting in impossible conditions, never surrendering, never giving up. They watched videos of human cities being bombed flat, only to be rebuilt stronger than before. "We do not enjoy war," Stone continued, "but we are very good at it. Surrender now, and we will treat you with honor. Continue fighting, and we will show you why no human army has ever been completely defeated." War Master Thexal listened to the broadcast with growing fear. His species respected strength, and the humans had proven they were stronger than anyone had imagined. But his pride would not let him surrender. "All ships, retreat to hyperspace," he ordered. "We will regroup and attack again." The alien fleet limped away from Proxima Centauri, leaving behind nearly half their ships. The humans had won the first major battle of the war, but Commander Martinez knew it was just the beginning. "Signal Earth," he told his communications officer. "Tell them the aliens are retreating, but they'll be back with more ships." Admiral Wright nodded as he received the message. The aliens had learned that humans were dangerous enemies, but they had not learned the most important lesson yet. Humanity was just getting started. The survivors of the alien fleet carried news of their defeat back to their home systems. For the first time in centuries, the three great powers of the galaxy had been beaten by a species they had considered primitive. The real war was about to begin. President Helen Torres stood in the war room beneath the White House, surrounded by screens showing the galaxy-wide conflict. The aliens had retreated from Proxima Centauri, but intelligence reports showed massive fleets gathering in their home systems. They were preparing for total war. How long before they return? Torres asked General Bobby Lane. Lane studied the tactical display. "Our spies report they're mobilizing everything they have. Every ship, every weapon, every soldier. They'll be back in 72 hours with 10 times the force they brought before." Torres nodded grimly. "Then we don't wait for them to come to us. It's time for Operation Nemesis." Admiral Lisa Carter had been waiting for this moment since the war began. Operation Nemesis was humanity's greatest gamble, a coordinated strike against all three alien home systems simultaneously. The plan was risky, but waiting for the aliens to attack again would be suicide. "All fleet commanders, this is Admiral Carter." She broadcast 2 human ships throughout the galaxy. "Operation Nemesis is authorized. They threaten Earth's children." Commander Rick Taylor received the message aboard his flagship USS Vengeance, hidden in the outer regions of Corven space. His task force consisted of 50 ships filled with humanity's finest soldiers and most advanced weapons. They had been waiting in the darkness for weeks, studying Corven defenses and preparing for this moment. "Take us in," Taylor ordered his navigator. "Target the Corven homeworld." The planet Corvax Prime had never been attacked in its 1,000-year history. The Corvins believed their homeworld was too well defended and too far from enemy territory to be threatened. They were about to learn how wrong they were. The human fleet dropped out of hyperspace directly above the planet. by passing the outer defense platforms through routes that human spies had discovered. The Corven defenders scrambled to respond, but they were not prepared for the fury that humanity unleashed. "All ships engage at will," Taylor commanded. "Remember, we're not here to conquer, we're here to end this war." Human weapons rained down on Corven military installations. The aliens had built their defenses to stop fleets approaching from deep space, not attackers who appeared directly overhead. Their massive defense platforms turned slowly, trying to track targets that moved too fast for their outdated systems, War Master. Drexen, the supreme commander of Corven Home Defense, watched his screens in disbelief. How did they get past our outer defenses? His aide, War Captain Nexer, checked the sensor readings again. The human ships appeared without warning. It's as if they knew exactly where our sensor blind spots were located. They had. Human intelligence services had been mapping alien defenses. For months, using everything from hidden observation posts to bribed alien officials, the Corvens had grown careless over centuries of easy victories, never imagining that someone might be watching them. In Zeltani space, Captain Laura Johnson led a very different kind of attack. The Zeltani collective relied on automated production facilities to build their ships and weapons. Johnson's fleet was filled with computer experts and electronic warfare specialists who had spent years studying Zeltani technology. "Begin the upload," Johnson ordered her technical team. Lieutenant Gary Miller worked at his console, his fingers flying across the keyboard. He had been a computer programmer before joining the military, and he understood how artificial intelligence systems could be corrupted. The virus he was uploading would spread through the Zeltani network like a disease. "Virus is active," Miller reported. "Their production computers are starting to malfunction." Across the Zeltani homeworld, factory after factory went silent. As human-designed viruses infected their control systems, the automated assembly lines that built Zeltani warships began producing scrap metal instead. Quality control programs that checked for defects began approving products that would fall apart within hours. High-dash processor Zenera, the Zeltani Supreme Intelligence, detected the attack within minutes, but by then it was too late. The virus had spread to backup systems, secondary networks, and even isolated computers that should have been safe. System corruption detected in 78.9% of production facilities, she announced to her subordinates. Human cyber warfare capabilities exceed all projections. Subprocessor Lixton tried to isolate the infected systems. "The virus is unlike anything in our databases. It appears to learn and adapt to our countermeasures." That was exactly right. Human programmers had studied captured Zeltani computers for months, learning how their systems worked. The virus they created was designed to think like a criminal, exploiting weaknesses that law-abiding artificial intelligence could not imagine. The economic war against the Vaxians was equally devastating. Commander Steve Parker led a team of financial experts who attacked the Vaxian economy with weapons the aliens had never encountered. Economic warfare on a galactic scale. Execute the market crash. Parker ordered from his command ship hidden in an asteroid field near Visashan space. Human agents throughout the galaxy began selling Visashan currency and investments simultaneously. Years of careful preparation had positioned humans to manipulate alien markets in ways the Vaxians could not counter. Their economy, built on the assumption that conquered species could not fight back, collapsed within hours. Trade Lord Bexrel watched his personal fortune disappear as human economic attacks destroyed everything he had built. This is impossible. No species understands galactic economics well enough to do this. His financial advisor, Commerce Leader Wexahall, stared at the scrolling numbers on his screen. The humans have been preparing this attack for years. They knew exactly which markets to target and when to strike. The Vaxians discovered that humans had been infiltrating their businesses, studying their trade routes, and learning their financial systems since first contact. Every deal they had made with human traders had been part of a larger intelligence operation. But the most terrifying weapon in humanity's arsenal was not military, economic, or technological. Dr. Martha Cox had spent 3 years studying alien physiology, and her research had produced something that kept alien leaders awake at night: Release the demonstration, Cox ordered from her laboratory on Earth. A single human ship appeared above each alien homeworld, broadcasting the same message in all 3 languages. The ship carried no weapons, no soldiers, and no bombs. It carried something much more dangerous, a biological agent. It's designed specifically for each alien species. The agent was harmless, causing nothing more than a temporary rash that lasted for a few hours. But its very existence proved that humans could create diseases that would kill any alien species while leaving humans completely unharmed. War Master Thexol developed the rash first, as purple spots appeared on his arms. Within hours, every Corven on their homeworld showed the same symptoms. The disease had been spread through their air, their water, and their food. There was no defense. The humans could have killed us all, Thexol whispered to his officers. They chose to show mercy. High Processor Vintheri calculated the implications as her own systems showed signs of the harmless infection. Human biological warfare capabilities represent an extinctional-level threat to all non-human species. Trade Lord Kexmore's tentacles turned bright yellow with fear as he realized the truth. They don't want to conquer us. They want to show us that they could destroy us whenever they choose. The message from humanity was clear. The war could end. In 2 ways, with alien surrender or with alien extinction. The choice was theirs. As reports of the attacks reached alien military commanders throughout the galaxy, a terrible understanding began to dawn. Humanity had not been defending themselves. They had been preparing for total war against enemies who thought they were too primitive to be dangerous. The aliens had wanted to see humanity's fury. Now they understood that what they had faced so far was just humanity being polite. The real fury was still waiting to be unleashed. From Earth, President Torres sent a message to the alien leaders on Kepler Station. You demanded our surrender. Now we offer you ours. Surrender unconditionally, or face the complete destruction of your civilizations. You have 24 hours to decide. The hunters had become the hunted, and the galaxy would never be the same. The council chamber on Kepler Station was silent for the first time in centuries. War Master Thexol sat in his chair, scarred hands trembling slightly as he stared at the communication device that had delivered humanity's ultimatum. 24 hours to surrender or face extinction. The purple rash on his arms had faded, but the message it carried would never leave his mind. High Processor Vintheri processed the data from the human attacks over and over. But the calculations always reached the same conclusion. Her species had been completely outmaneuvered by an enemy they had dismissed as primitive. The humans had shown technological abilities, strategic thinking, and biological weapons that made resistance mathematically impossible. Trade Lord Kexmore clicked his tentacles nervously as he reviewed the economic damage. His entire trade empire had collapsed in a single day. Worse, human traders were already offering better deals to his former clients. They had not just defeated the Vaxians militarily, they had replaced them economically. We underestimated them, Thexol said finally, his voice lacking its usual boom. They let us see what they wanted us to see, while they prepared for total war. Vintheri nodded slowly. Human deception capabilities exceed all parameters. They planned this war before first contact was established. Kexmore's tentacles drooped. With defeat, they know everything about us. Our weaknesses, our fears, our economic systems. We know almost nothing about them. The 3 alien leaders looked at each other, each seeing their own fear reflected in the other's faces. They had ruled the galaxy for centuries through strength and intimidation, while they faced a species that was stronger, smarter, and more dangerous than anything they had ever encountered. What are our options? Thexol asked. Vintheri consulted her calculations one final time. Surrender or extinction. No other outcomes are mathematically possible. As the alien leaders debated their fate, Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the USS Defiance, watching the alien fleets that had gathered around Kepler Station. Hundreds of ships from all 3 species surrounded the station, but they made no aggressive moves. They were waiting for their leaders to decide whether to fight or surrender. Any word from the Alien Council? Asked Admiral Lisa Carter, who had arrived with the main human fleet. Morrison shook his head. They have 6 hours left to respond. Intelligence reports suggest they're still arguing among themselves. Dr. Kevin Walsh monitored alien communications. From his station, Corven military commanders want to fight to the death. The Zeltani leadership is calculating the cost of continued resistance. The Vaxian traders are trying to find a way to profit from surrender. What do you think they'll choose? Carter asked. Morrison considered the question carefully. They're learning that humans don't make empty threats. I think they'll surrender, but it won't be easy for them. On the human homeworld, President Helen Melday, Torres prepared for both possibilities. If the aliens surrendered, humanity would need a plan for the future of the galaxy. If they chose to fight, humanity would need to finish what the aliens had started. General Lane, what's the status of our fleet? Torres asked. Lane checked his reports. Every human ship is ready for combat. We have forces positioned near all major alien worlds. If they refuse to surrender, we can begin the final phase within hours. Torres hoped it would not come to that. Despite their fury at the alien ultimatum, humans preferred to solve problems without unnecessary destruction. But they were prepared to do whatever was necessary to protect their species and their freedom. The answer came with 2 hours remaining on the deadline. War Master Dexal appeared on the main screen, his proud bearing replaced by weary resignation. Behind him stood the other alien leaders, their expressions showing similar defeat. People of Earth, Dexal began, struggling with words he had never expected to speak. The Corven Empire, Zeltani Collective, and Vaxian Union hereby surrender unconditionally to humanity. The words echoed across the galaxy as every human ship received the transmission.
After days of warfare,
The greatest conflict in Galactic. History was over. Humanity had won not through luck or accident, but through careful planning, superior strategy, and the will to do whatever was necessary to survive. But President Torres' response surprised everyone, including many humans. We accept your surrender, Torres announced from Earth. However, we do not seek conquest or revenge. We offer you something better, partnership in building a new kind of galactic civilization. The alien leaders looked confused. Their history, surrender, had meant slavery, occupation, and exploitation. They had expected humans to treat them the way they had treated conquered species for centuries. You have technological knowledge, industrial capacity, and resources that could benefit everyone, Torres continued. We propose a new galactic charter, based on equality, mutual respect, and shared prosperity. Over the following weeks, the shape of the new galaxy began to emerge. The former alien empires became autonomous regions within a human-led federation. Their military forces were integrated into joint defense fleets under human command. But they retained control over their internal affairs. Admiral Jake Morrison, promoted to Galactic Defense Coordinator, worked with former enemies to create the new fleet structure. Many alien officers struggled to adapt to human military doctrine, which emphasized flexibility and individual initiative over rigid obedience. You want me to think for myself? Asked former War Captain Zexstar, now serving under Morrison's command. Morrison nodded. The best soldiers are the ones who can adapt to changing situations. We don't want robots following orders. We want partners who can help us solve problems. The cultural exchange program produced even more dramatic changes. Captain Nicole Harris led teams of human and alien personnel on exploration missions to uncharted regions of space. Working together, they discovered new worlds, new species, and new possibilities for cooperation. The humans fight differently than we expected, former sub-processor Kylanth told her Zeltani colleagues. They argue with their superiors, question orders, and make decisions based on emotion as well as logic. But somehow it works. Dr. Kenneth Adams established schools throughout alien space where young aliens learned human history, philosophy, and problem-solving methods. The results amazed their parents and teachers. These human methods of education are producing remarkable results. Former Commerce Leader Pextel reported to his Vaxxan supervisors. Our children are more creative, more adaptable, and more capable of independent thought. The greatest test of the new system came during the first anniversary celebration of the peace treaty. Representatives from hundreds of worlds gathered on Kepler station, now renamed Unity Station. Former enemies worked together to coordinate the festivities. War Master Thexel, now serving as a military advisor to the human command, found himself working alongside the officers he had once planned to conquer. The irony was not lost on him. "You could have destroyed us," he told Admiral Morrison during the celebration. "Why didn't you?" Morrison considered the question while watching human and alien children playing together in the station's central plaza. "Because destruction is easy. Building something better is hard work, but it's worth doing." The final scene of Humanity's victory took place aboard the USS Unity, formerly the USS Defiance, as it prepared to explore the galaxy's outer rim. Captain Morrison stood on the bridge, surrounded by a crew that included humans, Corven, Zeltani, and Vaxians working as equals. "Set course for the unknown regions," Morrison ordered. "Let's see what else is out there," as the ship jumped to hyperspace. Morrison reflected on how much had changed. The aliens had wanted a fight, and they had met humanity's fury. But that fury had proved to be more creative than destructive, more interested in building than conquering. The galaxy had expected humanity to rule through fear and force, the way the old empires had ruled. Instead, humans had chosen to lead by example, showing that cooperation achieved more than conquest ever could. In the end, humanity's greatest victory was not defeating their enemies, but transforming them into friends. The galaxy would never be the same, and that was exactly what Earth's children had intended from the beginning.